recording right now. So,
All right.
just to get the proliferous manifestations of, this official stuff out of the way. Hi there, I'm Virgil Franklin, and this is a really nice impromptu interview with a former student of mine who has done some really crazy stuff in the music industry here of late. And his name's Nick Joest. Nick's there, and I'm digging the beard, man. I'm
I
just gonna
appreciate
say,
it. I just
dang,
took off 5 inches last night, actually. It's
right,
shorter now. Yeah.
right on, right on. I did the same thing. I had the big,
Yeah.
massive goatee, and then winter hit, so I had to fill in the rest of it so my face wouldn't fall off.
Absolutely.
But
It's
anyway, so you're here, and I'm here, and where's the beer? No, I'm here. You're Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right, man. Well, to be fair, I'm just digging on the caffeine right now.
feel you.
But man, you have you've been in my windshield for a while, and I've been watching, kind of things go down with you and uh on Facebook and just stuff you've been sharing, and so I've got to ask you some ambiguous questions, okay? All
Absolutely. Yeah.
right. Um Number one, what's happening right now with Nick as far as music is concerned?
Uh, well, it's got kind of a lot of things going on, as you know. I feel like hitting the ground running as of late with I've been producing a lot, of course. Just I always stay making a lot of beats and just trying to keep my wits sharp with all of that. And I mean, I just, to be honest, been working with some other guys, in production. I got a buddy Tyler, who's out of Dale, Indiana. He's kind of very, really, really, really talented EDM producer. He does a lot of dubstep and things like that. We kind of got into hip hop together. He's co-engineering and producing. I'm working on an EP, just kind of something I wanted to do for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to fully release it. You might have seen snippets here and there, but just stuff for fun. But yeah, I mean, we both just got very recently an Apollo twin interface, which is something we really wanted to get into because of the U80 plugins and stuff, which is something that I definitely want to talk about with whoever you might share this with. That's a huge thing in the industry right now. And then to add to that, the Slate ML1 microphone, and with the microphone emulations that package comes with. So that's the setup we just got. It's amazing. We've been going through, just trying to test out all these different things, and we weren't, over the years, and I'm sure most people will know this, equipment's expensive. It's hard to always have all the things that you would normally have in a more professional environment. So to try to get those same type of like quality mixes, like those tones, and like, not everyone can have a tube mic and stuff. So like, we really like that emulation, the UAD plugins, all this stuff that we could not just have a raw input. We could really like be creative, and we wanted to try to go in the creative route. So that's been really fun, getting into learning the UAD plugins and the Slate digital emulations of the mics, hearing the differences, mixing the differences, of course. So really, yeah, that's probably the newest thing I've been getting into. But as of that, just slow, like strong and steady, just trying to make beats as much as I can, and stay making. I usually try to have like a week quota, not necessarily like make a beat every day, like I have a daughter and stuff like that, a family, so it's always hard to get away from times, but just trying to keep putting in that work, and not getting consistent or complacent with just giving up, and just trying to keep pushing the boundaries, and being an instrumentalist and a musician and acquiring that. It's just not really giving myself a break, I guess, if that makes sense, here and there when I need it, but just trying to stay active. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. Just production, just working.
You're preaching to the choir. You do realize that, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Oh, I know.
I mean, it's I remember not too many years ago, and I'll just bounce off of this one and bring it back around. But
Sure.
I remember not that many years ago sitting in front of a 202 class after they'd been on Christmas break, and I was like, "So, what'd y'all do over break?"
Yeah.
And they look at you like, I mean, like they did nothing. And I said, "You mean you didn't mix anything? You didn't produce anything?" My God, I'm 56 years old and I'm grinding every day.
That's what I mean, and
What
that's
what
that
I mean,
attitude to
yeah, it's
yeah,
just like, what are you doing? Why are you in this?
yeah,
So I say that to bring you this direction. Okay. I'm gonna pull you
okay.
over here and you can talk about gear because you know I'll talk about gear all day long.
Oh,
And
yeah, of course, of course.
but you've gotten some attention recently.
I appreciate it. I'd like to hope that it's good attention.
I mean, it was good attention. I mean, you know, you had an artist that you
Hey, real quick, audio's cutting out on me a little bit.
okay, it's not here.
It's not there?
No,
Let's
it's
see,
nice and clean.
okay, give me 1 second. Maybe my thing's messed it up on me. Sorry about that. We'll start that over in a second if we can.
It's all right. I'm experiencing crackle on my end, but that's my voice actually.
I got it fixed. We're good to go.
Awesome. So,
So,
okay, so you got some attention just recently from an artist that you're a fan of.
yes, a very
Heard
big fan
some of
of.
your stuff, and then kind of take us through that, would you, for a second?
Yeah. So just kind of like how I got in, like how I got the involved with the communication and just stuff like that, like my entry level into this relationship, basically.
Yeah, how'd you get? I mean, you've got some beats that are going to go some places now, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially, two for sure. Well, I'll say three for sure. One of which that's already been written to, contacted about the album and stuff like that. So like one I already know is going to be on his album. But there's I think up to like two more that he said for sure he was going to write to for this particular album, but then seven others, making 10 total that he is interested in. That we haven't really finalized those deals yet, but
Can you
just
say who the
interest.
he is?
Yeah, he's a rapper out of Atlanta. His name is Ritz. He was formerly signed to Tech Nine's label Strange Music. Um, he's been one of my favorite rappers forever. He really excels in like the double time and the very fast cadence type of rap, and I've always been a huge fan of that growing up. So I've listened to this guy since VU. Actually, when I was there in 2012, when I first started, was when I was introduced to him by Mitch Columbia. I think you might remember back in the day, the broadcasting guy that came in on a session with us once. But
Uh,
he got me into it. So yeah, I mean, I've been listening to him ever since. So long story short, over the years, I've studied him. I've studied a lot of producers and stuff, and I try to kind of, obviously I like to make what I like. So he's always stuck out to me. His beat choices, how he mixes, all that type of stuff. Side note, another that's Mac Miller painting I bought the other day, but I've always studied his productions and stuff. So stuff like that. Really got into his style. About a year ago, he posted something on Facebook saying that he was looking for producers and that he sent out an email address, a way to get a hold of him. And at the time, I probably sent him, I'm going to guess between 50 and 60 beats, and I heard nothing back on anything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I kept this email. I made a beat one day, and I'm just kind of hanging out. It was the night before, and I made this beat, and I mixed it all down. I produced it, mixed it all in one night. The next morning, I was listening to it. I was just like, I hear Ritz on this. I know he would love this beat. It's exactly up his alley. Didn't really mean to come off that way in the beginning. I think it just kind of turned out that way in the end. So I remembered, man, I wonder if this email still goes to him, like on a whim, complete whim. I forwarded the email off, and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if you're gonna get this. I really do think this beat would speak to you, and hopefully you like it. And I didn't think it would go anywhere. I figured it was going into nowhere land. I got an email back within about like 4 hours saying, I want that. I'm writing it out. He just dropped an album. It's called Ritzmas. It's a Christmas album. He said, after that album, I'm going to be writing one starting in the beginning of the year. So this next upcoming year. He's already kind of starting to write to it and get that production underway. And he said, I want this for my album. And I mean, my fiance and my daughter basically just watched me melt into my living room floor whenever, he told me that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I gave it a couple of days to think about how I wanted to approach this and not fanboy out on the guy. So, I hit him back and said, I appreciate that. here's my contact information. If you feel like you'd like to reach out to me, you can call, text, email anytime. I'd love to just get in touch with you about this. And then he did. He texted me one day, said, "Hey man, this is Ritz. This is my work phone number. It's text only or whatever, but let's talk." And we went through a bunch of stuff, and he was just like, I want this beat, and I really think that this style and what you have made with this is definitely like something that speaks to my soul, and like I really want to hear more from you, and I want to make your acquaintance and kind of just keep your that type of introduction. And then really from there, it's just, he just said, flood me, whatever beats you have that you think I might like, here's the styles, this is kind of what I'm working on now. I was like, okay. I made notes, I wrote it down.
Mhm.
And then I started sending him everything I already had. And then not only so, going forward, I didn't make a beat that I didn't think it was for, like, so at the time I was only making like, okay, I'm going to make another beat that he'll like. I keep wanting to try to make more things to send to him that he'd like. And then, that one turned into about 10 or so now. So I took that and just ran with it,
Mm.
with hoping that I could just build a little bit of a repertoire for myself. So that's where we're at now. I have talked to him probably 10, 15 times since then, just kind of shooting the stuff around. Right now with the holidays, he's taking a bit of a hiatus for family time and stuff, understandably. So I don't expect to hear from him, and probably until your students, return back to school about that time and stuff like that. So yeah, we're kind of just working and waiting around to really hear what's going to happen. And I think within the month or so, I might have that answer. So
I I I love the way you kind of put it, in the sense that you're like the process that you went through. Number one, you sent the guy what, 50 beats
easily,
to
easily
start with, easily 50.
over like
And
4 days. Yeah.
see, I know I've got somebody that's going to be listening to this recording that's going to say, "Dude, I've been writing beats for 10 years and I don't have 50 beats." And and all I got to say is, "What are you doing?"
I know.
I mean,
And
you said it, I've said it, we both said it, and from my mouth to your ears, from your mouth to my ears. Man, you got to grind. I mean,
yeah,
set a goal for yourself and say, I'm going to do this by this time. I mean, all of us who are in this game, whatever, if you're writing beats, or right now, I've got a movie I'm working on, and I've got, oh my gosh, I've got a 5.1 mix that's due out by the 31st. And I know when my deadline is, and I'm always working that deadline.
yeah.
But yeah, you got to grind. And this is not a lazy person's gig. Fair?
No, it's not. Yeah, fair. Sorry, I have some weird app you keep trying to open up. Sorry.
Nice. No,
Yeah,
you're
my
good.
bad. What is this doing? What is this doing? Did I get out of here? Am I still with you?
Yeah, you're still with me, man,
Then what is going on here?
because you're on the Mac.
There we go. There we go. There we
There
go.
you are. You're on
Sorry
the
about
Mac.
that.
So,
I don't want that.
okay. So you, you, you threw a bunch of your best stuff at him, stuff you
Yes.
thought would be good.
Yeah.
And then just kind of let it go because it kind of disappeared, right? You kind of thought,
Yeah.
well, he's just not. It's like in the old days, handing somebody your mixtape and saying, "Hey, man, give this a listen. See, tell me what you think," and then you don't hear
Yeah.
from them forever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but you didn't give up.
Oh no, never. That I think that's a very solid point that I'd like to hit on. Being a former student of what these kids are doing now, and given I just turned 30, so I understand maybe being younger and it's everything is daunting, everything is scarier, um, and I know how it feels to be that. I understand how these people feel. A lot of these guys, when I went into the audio and when I went into that program, I had maybe 2 years of very beginning in beat making and stuff like that. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn everything I didn't know. The thing is about this is, and it kind of hits on why I think people don't grind as much as they should, is I think it kind of all stems down to people they're scared of not doing a good mix. Basically, like they don't want to open the DAW, start a project, and they don't like it, or they think it sucks, it doesn't go anywhere, they hit a ledge and they stop. Don't worry. Like you should be thankful for every single time that a beat, like I might have I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to guess here. I mean, how many beats I'm going to guess between 400 and 500 beats,
Yeah.
maybe more. Somewhere in there, I'm guessing. I probably have another 200-300 beats that I've made that I deleted that are just trash. At the moment, I wasn't inspired. I didn't mix right. I might have done a mix, at 4 a.m. after coming home from the bar all night. It doesn't matter. Fail over and over again. Be comfortable with failing, and then outside of that, be creative. Like, there's rules. Of course, we know, compression works a certain way. You can't just turn knobs and expect it to work.
Right.
But you can be creative in your mixing and your production. And, you can defy some rules. You can
Of
be your
course.
own person. You can mix for a gritty mix if you'd like. You can mix for a little bit of clip distortion if you'd like, if it's all worked in the way that it's intended. And I always go by this, if it sounds good, it's good. Now, referencing what you're listening on and stuff, and your ears trained, but
Right.
a lot of these people, you have to hustle. You cannot. My main point is just, I don't want to get too far into this, but you just can't be scared to fail. You should always open that door thinking, okay, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to make something great, or I'm going to make something that sucks. Or maybe even a third option, I make something that's okay, but it's not my best thing. It's not my most thing I'm proud of, but it makes you learn something every time. And if sometimes you don't learn what to do, you will learn what not to do.
Yeah.
Everything is a learning. And so I just say, it's a diamond in the rough. You just got to work, and then you will get better. You will
Dude,
fail a lot in the beginning,
yeah.
and you'll get better.
Yeah, but
It's
these
that's
are
just
these are massively applicable across the panacea of everything. This is
yes.
life, I
Yeah.
have a little thing over the top of my mantle that my kids kind of laugh at occasionally. It's like, says music is life. It's like, well, what you're saying is essentially this: don't be scared to fail. Number
Yes.
one,
Number one.
and that keeps kids and adults, from doing a lot of stuff that people in general just don't do a lot of things because they fear failure. Because we're taught from a very early age, you don't want to make that F. Well, yeah, you
Yes.
don't want to make that F, but you're guaranteed going to make it if you don't try.
Exactly. You fail if you don't try. So it's like you have nothing to lose. And it's just, I think the feeling comes from, more or less the feeling, not necessarily like feeling like a failure, but like when you open your DAW and you try to do something in music production and you just
Oh,
don't think you're getting it. And you're like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. That feeling is what
oh,
you guys got to throw that out the door, bury it in your backyard, 6 feet under the ground, put a tombstone over the top of it and leave it there. Cause it doesn't matter,
if
you
it's
know?
in you, Chet Atkins, famous guitar player in country music. I'm sorry that I brought him up, but I will. Said something
That's fine.
really, really incredible. He said, "Don't die with it in you.
No,
Don't die
I
with it
agree.
in you." And that's what you're speaking to. It's like, the one thing that you know, of all the things that you've said so far is just, man, just start.
Just start somewhere and
Yeah.
just know that it's a process. It's like okay, you're going to learn piano from scratch. You've never touched one before. You're going to suck at it for a year or two or 6 months or however. It depends how much you practice. You get on that piano every day, you'll be able to play something in 3 months. It might be Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but it's something. But if you do it, the more time you put into it, the quicker you'll evolve. And it's like becoming a musician for the first time. You
By
just got to
by
get in and go.
by the way, your keyboard work is some of my favorite recordings that you put on online is your key work, man. You're just like
Yeah,
you have such I
thank you.
mean,
I appreciate that.
oh my gosh. It's just like I will admit I'm a little jealous. It's just you have this
I
really nice
appreciate that.
sense of how it all should just lay in. It's really nice.
I really appreciate that. I really
So
appreciate that.
so all right. So you're having some success. This didn't happen overnight.
Oh no.
And
It's my
anybody
10
who
year my 10-year anniversary actually this going into next year will be my 11th year. So I'm ending my 10 years of music production this year basically.
and see, there's going to be somebody listening to this going, 10 years. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And when you're 20, 10 years is like half your life.
And I'm 30. That's when I started.
Right.
When I was 20, you
Yeah.
know, 19, 20. Yeah. But it becomes a lifestyle. It's like
Mm.
it's a lifestyle. It's not a choice. It's not a job. It's not like you got to quit if you don't make money. It's what you want to do. It's like the same thing as picking up a guitar because you're a guitarist and playing it. for
right.
me, so,
Sure.
but so I see how they could feel that way, but I don't know. I guess I was just one of the people that I saw the challenge and I was like, oh, so you mean by 30 I could make some records that are mixed, like whatever, learn all this stuff. I mean, I'm not perfect. I still think I know 10% of the 1,000% out there, but nonetheless, I found my lane, and I think once these people can kind of find their lane, it speaks volumes and it's game over from there. And I think it's just that passion, that motivation to get there. It doesn't take you 10 years to find your lane. It didn't take me 10 years to find mine because I worked to try to figure that out. And, the success won't
Because
come.
you because you worked. Because
Yes,
you worked. Yeah,
it all
you did,
comes back.
you know.
You're right. It does come back. The work has to come first, but the passion has to be mixed and, finding your lane of what you want to make, and doing what you want to, like, not everyone's going to want to be a producer. You want to be an engineer, a mastering engineer. You can do anything you want. You can literally record, horses racing, or I mean, you can do whatever you absolutely want. That was the worst analogy I could possibly think of miking. But you get my point. You can do it. Just find what you like. And, and my thing was beats. I love hip hop, whatever. Obviously being in marching band for me in high school was big. I was a snare drum player. So the percussion side was, rhythm is big, goes with, trap,
See, it's
hi-hats and stuff.
okay, kids, to be a band geek
Oh, I
because
was the biggest band geek.
you can be cool like Nick and still be a band geek. That's it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, drumline. It doesn't matter what you do. Band was probably the most structured musical thing in my life I've ever done. I did it for 3 years. I became the drum major when I was a junior of the drumline, and I would not take a second of that back. It's a lot of work, but it was worth it.
Right,
I loved
right.
it.
I get you.
Yeah,
So if somebody's taking copious notes, it's like number one, passion.
you're here
Number
for a reason. They're here for a reason. What's that reason? Really, it's like I don't want to be a therapist here, but like you got to find what you want to do. What's your reason for showing up? And then whatever
What's
that
your
is, work
reason
towards
for
that.
waking up? You
Yeah,
know, I
yeah.
mean, to be frank about it, it's just like, you know, I know you resonate with this, but it's like when I get up in the morning, what's the first thing I think of? I got another chance.
Yes.
I get to
Yeah.
do this again.
Amen.
You
Amen
know,
to that.
and I get to do this again. So I'm not worm food. I get to do
Yeah,
this again. And
exactly.
and that's so it's passion, but passion without work, you know. And then you take work and then you're going tenacity on top of that. So the tenacity is like the work it sucks, man, It's like the old joke, the the pay is crap, but the hours suck, you know,
Yeah,
you know.
it's true. It's
And,
true.
but and it's so you tenacity, you're going after it, and it makes the win that much sweeter.
Yes, it does.
Pete, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to push a different direction with you if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because I'm still keeping in mind the gear talk. Um, there is a microwave mentality about some people in general, and my generation is just as bad as anybody's generation on this. But it's like if it didn't happen like in this block of time, well, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that has no place in what you and I are doing and what
No.
you're doing. and
Eh,
and yeah, it has no space in your head.
No, because I would do it whether I had no. Every person on the entire planet could tell me to quit and don't quit my day job and just to stop because it's trash. I'm still gonna do it. I still like it. I just won't show anybody anymore. But
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
still going to do it though. It's in
Sure.
my blood. So it didn't become that way. It didn't start that way. I fell in love with it. And it's the same reason I chose to go to college, but for it. And it's the same reason I continued to continue with it afterwards. And to be honest, I didn't have a whole lot of success. I went into broadcasting, um, TV production after college. I didn't, I mean, I did do the audio in the lodge recording studios. I did work briefly. I had some of those some really cool experiences. But yeah, I mean, the food on the table came from TV production and news production. So
Mhm.
it took me a long time to actually start making money from beats. after college ended. Just the mixes weren't there, and my, whatever. So going
But
forward,
right.
yeah,
But
just
still, I'll throw this in the mix. But still, you know, you were still, even though you're doing TV production, you're still writing.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Every available moment, you'd steal away and, you know,
Yes.
pull
Oh
out
yeah.
pull out the doll and let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'm
every night, honestly, to be honest with you. I mean, even when I had my daughter, to be honest, I didn't matter what I was doing. I'd never stop. No.
right on, right on. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this question, and I think I know the answer already, but I'll
Okay.
ask.
Okay.
All right. So you know you and I have some mileage. Um, my biggest memory of you in class was you were like the sponge. It's like you hung on every word of every person that was, you know, it didn't matter, student, teacher, anybody. You were about absorbing energy and knowledge from everybody.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest things I ever liked, that I really dug about you, was the fact that it's just like, this kid's going to go someplace because he learns from everybody. He gets it. So I'm going to ask this question. What did we do for you at Vincennes University? What did we do for you?
You guys definitely taught. I mean, everything really, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things that I've learned, obviously, that I didn't learn there, but
Sure.
you can't do everything. Producers can go a lifetime and still learn new things. Everything's evolving. So, but the basis of the things that you did for me, especially in a lot of the classes in the beginning were, they can appear to be lackluster, but they are not. There is such the opposite. The learning mics, knowing, let's just start with a 58 stage mic, a 57 for a snare, all the different utilizations for a 57 with a cabinet. You like learn these mics, learn, like, not just that you need to know about gear, but you need to know how the applications of why this is a industry accepted thing. Why a D421 Sennheiser, I believe, is a great tom mic. Just, you have to know how things work. You need to understand the differences between condensers too. That's just microphone stuff. It really doesn't matter if you're just going to do EDM production or whatever, but
Right.
really absorbing the gear, I guess, at first, and then the practicality of beginning sessions. Really, I think that was what did it for me, was learning how I could take a workflow, take an idea, and do it the right way. Learning how I could, my stereo imaging, my gain staging, my clip automation, like paying attention to my transients, more like a lot of the physics of it. How to use the proper, let's say, a normal EQ, like the different, how bands work, parallel versus. I'm sorry, I'm gonna brain fart here. Parametric versus parallel EQs, side chaining stuff, auxiliary buses, all of that stuff. Learning how, okay, you probably don't want to put a crazy plugin before you do your basic EQ and compression. There's signal chain. Things go down a certain order down the signal, and that's physics. There's no necessary rules, but you guys taught that. So when you're doing a kick, this is how you can look at your signal chain, how it's processed in order, and how you can bust things out and stuff like that. How you can use just that type of stuff. It really created the template in my mind for how to start practical projects, how to start a project and do it practically. What's my end game? Okay, think back. What did Virgil talk about bussing? Okay, I want to put this same reverb on a couple of these things because I want the same air applied to all of these different layered synths or something. Well, instead of putting 4 different versions of the same plugin on each one, you can take some more CPU. That's another thing we can talk about. You'll learn about. But you can bust things. Using these things to your advantage makes your workflow so much better, and making your workflow so much better or quicker gives you more time for creative. You're not
Mhm.
worrying about the walls in the way, the hurdles, the obstacles. It streamlines your process. You can take You could go from making a beat in 5 hours to making a beat in an hour and a half, and then maybe another hour or two mixing. But I'm just saying, just the production of getting those sounds and the gain staging right, and making sure that your mix is solid. You're not even hitting -6, stuff like that. And the -6 thing is a big thing to learn. But again, it all goes down the line. But
Yeah.
it was practical. It was applicable in every workflow, and it was very unbiased to anything. All of those things that I was taught in school can be applied, and everyone should be paying attention to it, because you will need to know it. You will utilize some factor of it in anything that you do. Period. And I do.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, and the word you used was really cool, unbiased,
Yes.
because we deal in glorified generalities when we deal with styles and stuff like that. I really don't want to speak specifically to styles and their techniques to go, and we can touch on those at in 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 academia, but really we got to deal with, here's the meat and potatoes of this.
Correct. Correct.
How do you do? And that's I'm glad to hear that back into my ears, because especially the -6 thing. So
Yeah. See, that sponge stuff, I appreciate that you kind of refer to me as that. But to me, it was just, you're telling me this stuff for a reason. How do I utilize this into what I want to do?
yeah,
And so it gave me a starting point
right. And
for good.
workflow is king.
Yes.
Workflow
Excellent.
is king, because and I've said this in class before, this definitely this year. The older I get, the more I say this. It's like, look, I'm 56. I don't have time to futz around through 20 different compressors, plugins.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for that one that I know is going to do the job. I'm going to click and drag it into the box. And I'm going to set it up the way I know to set it up. And you only get that if you're grinding every day. I mean,
Exactly.
I have an embarrassing, and you do too. And
Of course.
I'm going to drag you into gear for a second here. But we amass a ridiculous number. I know I do, especially in Ableton because VSTs. But I go out in the web. If somebody's got a new free VST, I'm like snagging it. I'm like a kid at the candy store. Give me more. But the
Yeah.
problem is, it's kind of funny to me is that I'll learn those plugins and then I'll go, okay, where am I going to use you at? And I'll kind of, when that opportunity presents itself, I'll grab that crayon out of the
Sure.
box. But so I hate to say this, but while we're talking, you start the conversation when you're talking about some gear and stuff, and gear is kind of like, I don't know, it's like plastic surgery. Sometimes you can kind of get too involved and you end up with a really ugly face.
Mhm.
And you end up with, just too much stuff and you don't know what to do with it all. But I have a sense that you've got a different approach to that. So let's take a sidebar here. Kids don't college kids, there's the term poor college kid I'm very familiar with,
Yeah.
because I
Me
was
too.
one,
I
you
was too.
know,
I was
ramen
too.
noodles and peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
I paid my entire 2 years out of pocket, no help. It was what I wanted to do. So not
Yeah,
much money left over after that.
I
So
understand those dilemmas.
yeah,
And you were in the studio a lot because you didn't have the stuff at home,
not
right?
really. No, I didn't have much. I had a laptop, uh, a, I had one MIDI capable keyboard, no microphones. I had a friend that had a microphone. It was a AT Audio Technica 4040. Not a bad microphone at all
Love
for
know
the
that
bank for
mark.
350 or so. I think is the price ticket on that. Really good. Focusrite 2i2 interface, just a very basic setup. So I mean, we did some stuff, but of course, how could I, compete with having a Bach 495? I
Ugh,
believe it is. Yeah,
yeah,
is it a 495 or
I believe that's right.
305? 495. Yeah.
I believe it's the 400 series, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't compete with that high quality. You should drop by
No,
the campus. We got an audio console now.
you do.
Yeah, we got a
Oh,
beautiful 8024
oh man,
audio console. Those pre's are sweet.
you kids are so spoiled these days.
They are there. They
Yeah,
just don't know it yet.
I
But
love the
anyway,
Icon D. I love the Icon. It was fun.
I still like the Icon D.
Of
We
course.
still got it. But anyway,
Awesome.
so how important is gear?
None, not at all. To be honest, unless you're doing vocal production. I'm sorry, it's not. Most of the beats, I mean, like,
Go on, preach.
just all right. Most of the beats that I made, it started with exactly how you see me right now. I'm sitting in front of my computer with these headphones on, with maybe no MIDI controller at all,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just step inputting things, or I'm just MIDI writing in my MIDI. Like, of course, that's not. You want to have some type of MIDI controller. You want to be able to route one shots or something, like a little audio samples, kicks, snares, stuff to like a pad. That's fine. You can also write it in. And to be honest with you, I didn't really need to have all that. I made most of my beats with nothing. I'm in the box completely. And nowadays I do use a little bit more. Um, it's mainly just a couple different MIDI controllers, and different. I got but I still use an Akai MPK Mini 2 second
Oh man.
generation. They're like $100, but you can route things to the 8 pads. You have enough keys. You don't need a lot. You need nothing really. If I were to even be honest with you, I've gotten solid mixes with an Audio Technica 2020 microphone, probably $80, with a Scarlett 2i2 interface. That's very, very common. And again, all these kids that anybody listens to this, right? What I just said down, I'll say it again. AT 2020 Scarlett 2i2 interface. For having no money, it's the best bang for your buck, and you can get recordings down and you can get decent mixes, and it'll teach you how to mix well. Because the biggest thing I remember you used to say in class, and I loved it, was the whole polishing a turd thing. Now, sometimes polishing a turd will still yield the turd, and it's the point of the saying. However, it teaches you how to set gain levels on a mic. It teaches you how to get the best quality sound you can out of that mic, and then now you're given something that you're like, okay, it still sounds thin. What can I do? Well, maybe now you learn about how saturation works, or how you learn about layering, or whatever it might be. I'm not going to get into like synths and changing tonalities of that way, but just if you start small, if you were to just buy a Newman U87 $3,600 and an Avalon 707 tube preamp, great, good, more power to you. You will have the best probably sounding microphone input you can get. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to mix it well. Start from the bottom and don't spend too much money until you really learn what you're doing, and then start putting that money into it, because you don't need anything when you start out. You need the DAW. And you don't even need, for the first 4 years of my production, I never used anything out of a stock plugin. I'm not joking.
No, you're preaching. Like
I
I
didn't
mean,
spend a cent. All I paid for was Pro Tools, and I paid for the $200 Logic license for Logic Pro X when Logic Pro X came out. And when Logic Pro X came out, I did not buy another. You're VST, I'm AU, of course,
right.
but I didn't buy anything. I would get free stuff. I would get free AU plugins. I get free sample kits. I get anything I could find out there that was just free stuff. Getting a membership to Splice, even maybe, I
Oh
don't know,
yes. Oh yes.
something like that, where you can have tools or resources accessible without breaking the bank, but it sparks enough to create,
Dude,
different stuff.
rent a plug-in for $10 for the month
Yeah,
and just beat it to death,
yeah,
and then make your sample set off that, and then lose the
yeah.
yeah.
It's a lot of different ways to go about it. And, I will say, taking advantage of looking up some of these companies that do really take care of producers, one of which I really enjoy is called Cymatics, um, Cymatics. They're really above the game right now when it comes to, uh, they do a lot of sound packs and stuff like that. So a lot of my one shots for drums and things like that, I've bought a lot of their kits, of course, and I do spend money, and I invest more now into myself, knowing I know how to use these things. But it's staying current. It gives you an ability to stay current in today's trend and today's sounds, and getting your sound, uh, your decisions on what sounds you use, picking your kicks, picking your snares, your hi-hats, your layers, stuff like that, and staying current, because they stay current, and they will still throw out free stuff all the time. So just look for these different companies. A lot of times they take care of producers a lot, and you're not on your own, so you don't have to break the bank to get modern sounds. And now, with that, utilizing how to do one shots is another, like, that might be a whole nother Zoom meeting in itself, but how to utilize, you know, uh, uh, an audio sampler and plugging in your one shots and then gain staging all that right, because that's huge. And it doesn't always have to be um, a very complicated process, and that was a big thing it learned for me. I watched so many YouTube videos on that. So, but
Mm,
I digress. But yeah, just looking for, like what you said, those free opportunities out there.
right. Cymatics is something that I'll admit to you I hadn't heard of, so I'm gonna have to go jump on
I'll
that.
jump into it.
Well,
There's so much free stuff out there. It's great.
I'm gonna have to put a link in there
Yeah,
when we push this out. Of course, I'm like on the other end of the spectrum. I go to Beta Monkey for everything
yeah, that's
because
that's a good one.
I'm a rock and blues and metal guy, so it's like everything is like, gosh, I need some. I mean, thank you.
Of
Flying the
course.
horns back at you, brother.
Yes,
But
sir.
at the end of the day, gear means basically nothing
No.
because you have the creativity has to come from you. You
Yeah,
know,
it's just a luxury, and it is a luxury whenever you have worked so long without it. Now, you will need some gear if you want to record bands. Of course, you're going to need mics, drum mics, what stuff like that.
sure.
But you technically don't. That's the beauty. No matter what music you want to do, you can DI, direct input. I mean, you can do everything synthetic now. You don't have to mic cabinets to get tonality. You don't have to mic a drum set. If you want to do real drums, yeah, you're going to have to
Sure.
mic a kit or use an electronic drum set or something. But you can also, if you're a one man band and you're a guitarist, get with a drummer. If you don't know drums or whatever, you can program all that stuff. There's not an excuse for not having gear. You can make whatever you want, really, because there's a synthetic version of everything out now.
Right.
So I don't want to beat the barrel by saying that you should do that. But if you don't have the ability to get gear, it still allows you to make some of that music that's in your head if you still want to make it. It should never be a barrier or an obstacle. You just need to work the other route, which is synthetic, digital, instead of miking, and that's okay. But it caters to everyone's individual needs, for sure.
Sure, sure.
So,
And I mean, I'm talking to you about gear and I'm sitting in front of massive piles of crap behind me. It's like I'm a gearhead.
and
But yeah,
rightfully so for what you do. You're obviously a professional at your craft, so you will acquire gear. And that's the thing they should know too, is you don't have to have it right away. I
no,
know that they'll look at someone like you and your stature of what you've accomplished in your life, and they'll say, well, I don't have all the stuff Virgil has, but did you have that when you were all of that when you were, you will obtain what you need, but
when I first started, and this I hate this. I don't want this to turn into two old guys talking about the good old days.
well,
But
here to that.
to be fair, I mean, I've had kids come in with their parents and the checkbook comes out, you know, and the checkbook comes out and the parents are like, how much do I need to buy this? And it's like the best thing you could do for your kid, buy them a good mic and interface and a copy of Pro Tools or if they're hitting hip hop R&B production, buy them a set of it, buy them a licensed Ableton Live, get them a push two if you've got the finances. By the way, you will get my push two when you pry it from my cold dead fingers. That's I mean that is my luxury liner right there. When I didn't know Ableton until I got my push two, and and oh my god,
It's amazing.
I can I can I can write. I will say these words and deny them later. I can write the dopest beats ever in such record time,
Yes,
and
that's that's the key.
and I'm a pasty old white dude, and I can write some really fine stuff. But
That's great.
it's the process. It's like and you kind of alluded to this a little bit. When you say workflow, I say recipes.
Sure.
So I'm not Chinese, but I can cook Chinese.
Right.
But I got to know the processes. I have to know the recipe, and I have to know the workflow that these guys are going through.
Right.
It's in my heart. It's in my head. It's in my brain. That's out my fingertips. It's in the DAW.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, and
it is.
that's so cool.
It is.
Okay, so you're getting into some nice gear now. You've got the slate mic with all and then you've got the AU. Is that right?
The Apollo Twin. The Universal Audio
Oh,
is the
UA,
company.
Universal
The
Audio.
UA, yeah, Universal Audio Apollo Twin interface does probably, I think it's about, I think paid $700 or so for it. So
Bad.
one time thing though, but coming with all those UAD, I believe it's Universal Audio. I
Right.
don't, the D is, I'm assuming just for, they're just plugins. I guess I'm brain farting on what the D is for, but yeah, UAD plugins. And it really is just because, okay, like it was between that for me and the Apogee Duet 2 interface,
Hmm.
but that just yields me a raw, and everything else is mixing or whatever after the fact, which is fine. But and this is the other thing. I just want to hit on this real very very quickly. Look at what other people are using in the industry that do what you do. If you're doing hip hop, look at what other hip hop people are using. If you're doing whatever, look at what those producers or engineers are using, because odds are a lot of them have gravitated to what works for it. And so the Apollo Twin just simply works. It's just an amazing thing. And I see people have it all the time. It's like a go-to. It's a no-brainer. So it's just one of those types of things is, you will learn over the years what everyone else kind of really likes. And you don't have to go that route, but there's a reason a lot of these people, it's popular. Popularity is because it's wildly accepted amongst our peers. And if it's accepted amongst our peers, I see that as it's like a scientist, submitting an article for publishing has to be peer reviewed first. If it's widely accepted amongst their peers, then it's right. If
Right.
it's accepted, then I think it's right. It was a good decision to make, and I love it. So I'll just say, follow. That's just another side thing. You edit that in there if you like. But
And there's a reason things become industry standard or accepted the best practices.
sure,
And it's not because they're crap. And it's not
right,
because somebody got paid off.
yeah,
The first time I got my eyes on a set of KRKs.
mm-hmm.
Not
Rockets.
not the best,
Nope.
you know,
But
but
they have their own thing.
they had
Their
their
own
own
sound.
thing. But I saw them on a desk, mixing desk, and producer that I really respected, and Alzinski in the mixing engineer's handbook says famously, "Don't buy a monitor because your favorite engineer owns it."
Sure.
Well, what? Give me another reason to not buy it. You
Yeah.
know that dude's using it, and I kind of think he probably paid for it. So what you're saying is kind of flies in the face of that, and I'm okay with that. I am really okay with that. You know, I mean, why am I using those BAS 2020s back there? Well, it's because some cat I saw up the road from me that I really dug his work. I'm like, those are some great speakers, man. You know, I'm gonna go with that. And I got a set of them, and I beat the crap out of them
Yeah.
with mixes for years. And I'm just like, I never there, but the thing I guess, you know, you're you're pointing to is the stuff you're getting now. You're looking at all the hot players right now, and you're saying, this is what they're using. I can financially at this point in my life make the deep dive and get
Sure.
that stuff.
Yeah, and then figure out the way I want to use those tools to use it differently. So I look up, like, so you can look up tutorials on how these other guys use their equipment. I don't care about that. I want to know the functionality of my gear, but the way I'm going to incorporate it is going to be my own way. So it to me was like, you hand any construction worker a hammer or a power drill, and they can all build something different with it. With what tool you give them. So it's like, what that hammer is, it's a capable hammer. So you can go build the biggest, dopest house out there, but your neighbor's going to build another big dope house that looks way different. It's apples to oranges, but you can still take what has worked for other people, kind of hitting on what you mean about those speakers. Yeah, maybe they might seem apropos, is that the word? I
Mm,
don't know if that's a good way to put it, but you learned them. You liked how they sonically sounded. They might have fit with your style of how you like to hear. And it doesn't matter what speakers you really get. I mean, you can get less quality for sure, that's out there,
sure.
but you will eventually learn how your speakers sound. and get acquainted with music that you're familiar with the mixes already, like professional music out there, and then listen to that stuff through the speakers and get acquainted with your speakers, learn it, learn your room, make sure it's treated decently well so you're not hearing things that aren't there. And you will eventually eventually, no matter really what you buy, you'll learn. I mean, to be honest with you, when I was at Vincent's and I was doing my mixes at home, which they weren't great, uh, I was using a Sony subwoofer and soundbar that goes to an entertainment system. I still
Oh,
have it in my living room to this day for
dude,
referencing, just for referencing though.
dude,
But I,
straight up, good words. Um, I remember I got right after the big divorce, and that was fun. I don't want to
yeah,
do that again ever.
yeah,
But
same.
I basically everything was shut down, and I had a movie to mix, and I remember mixing, recording the soundtrack, and doing the mix on a VZO television set, the built-in speakers, and a
Yeah.
set of headphones because that's what I had.
Yes.
But I knew what that TV set sounded like because every night I was listening to music on that. As cheesy as that sounds, what you said is true. Your ears tune
Hmm.
to the system that you listen through. I'm going to tell you, I bought a set of
Okay.
Adam speakers with
Okay.
the ribbon tweeter in it. You know, the
Okay.
ones like out of Studio B,
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
ones I hate.
I
Uh,
remember them, I believe.
Yeah, I have a pair of those, and they haven't gone on the desk yet, but they're going to go on the desk. And I live almost in fear putting those on my desk as a second reference set because you know there are monitors out there that are really good at telling you how bad you mix.
And yes, yeah, I was just thinking that, like, just to go back into something that you're proud of, you're like, oh, Scar sounds great through my other monitors. Let's test out these new ones. And it's like, that app sounds way off, whatever. It's all relative, really.
Right,
So
and transferring from one, and these are things again you learned back in audio school. You're just going, you're
yeah,
saying things I said, which is so funny to hear them coming out of your mouth.
maybe
But
that's the sponge thing. I don't know. It's true though. It's unbiasedly true. It is true. Every single part of this mentality of music production is embodied in that, in all these like these philosophical moments and lessons that you teach, because it's so practically correct, just simple. It's not meant to confuse you. It is just, I don't want to say gospel, but this is how it works. And I mean, it's just, how do you refute correct information?
and we all learn. We all said, and I still do. And this is, I guess, this is not bringing this to a halt or anything, but just to make this point clear. All of us remain students our entire lives. The day you quit learning is the day. If you can go through a week and say, I didn't learn anything new this week, you're probably not grinding,
Correct.
you know?
Yes.
And I learned something new about music almost every day. And I've been doing this since I was, 6, 7 years old, man. I'm just like, it's still as new as it ever was.
I know.
And
It-
and and it just dumbfounds me when people get so tight that they're just like, I'm not feeling the fire anymore. Well, light up. I mean, something.
yeah.
Do
Whatever.
something to light yourself back up. Okay, so gear is not all as important. It's nice to have good gear. It's nice to have equipment. Watch what everybody else is using because that's important.
Yeah.
And depending upon what genre specifically you're into, look at what everybody else is using. Um, you know, there's a reason why they gravitate towards that. Would you say that there's great danger in getting stuck on a particular piece of software or a particular plugin because
Yeah. Yes. I think I could hit that in a couple of different ways. Yes and no. You can. I think it depends on your mindset about it. I think it depends on how you approach your those things. Uh, I think you should be careful I do think that you should dive in, but I don't think that you should be set in your way on, okay, I have to use an LA2A. And again, it's something I'll throw out there for you guys to look up if you haven't already gotten into it. You don't have to use that on everything. You don't have to use a FET compressor. You can use VCA, Opto. You can use, there's so many different things out there. Don't get complacent ever. Start learning about some of these new things and trying to push the envelope. And you might try some things. You might waste an hour of your life experimenting it, and you might come back to your go-to, like kind of you were saying earlier. But at least you learned something, and I think that's important. I do think it's important to know what works for you. But I also do think it's important to never stop trying to progress into finding new things that can work for you. And then, I'm a big template guy. So with effects, I EQ, I'm a big template. So that's another streamlining thing in the workflow. But outside of that, I really think it's kind of a little bit of both. But overly, yes, it can be dangerous to get complacent with a certain gear, with a certain piece of gear, or a certain mindset on how to utilize the gear that you have, I guess, or that I guess if that hits your question, I'm not sure exactly,
Yeah,
but
it
that's
does.
kind of how I feel about it. So
Right.
dangerous, but be cautious, but don't. I mean, to be honest, I guess I like to be experimental. So I really don't. I can't say I'm not a complacent person. So
Sure. Yeah.
I put reverb on a kick drum 3 weeks ago. It worked too. I mean, it was a subtle thing, but
I've done it. Yeah.
there's no rules to anything,
No, and I mean there are guidelines, and that's all they are. Is guidelines. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to do a rapid fire question here. Okay. So I'm going to throw some stuff at you, and I just want you
All
to
right.
respond. This is the producer talking to the producer. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Producer with the best hi-hat sound ever.
Dre.
Producer with the best snare sound ever.
Still Dre. His layering is unmatched to
Wow.
me. To me personally.
Genre specific, hip hop, best kick drum. Best
kick drum.
Best kick.
Oh man, that's a hard one. Man, that is really, really, really hard because I'm such a big fan of bass. I love mixing bass. I like some of my beats to be very bass heavy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kick drum on the hip hop side, I can't really put my finger on. I mean, I could name off a lot. I really do look up to, of course, Dre is like one of my biggest idols. I like, Just Blaze. I do like Mike Will Made It. I do like, let's see here. I kind of like, and I guess more poppy, but like Pharrell. But I mean, if you want to go back down into like trap stuff, I like, okay. You know what? I have one for you, and he's probably not going to be as known as some of these other guys, but he goes by Seven, and he's Tech Nine's in-house producer at Strangeland Studios. The guy's a wizard, and I have heard some of the coolest kicks sounds that I have seen out of that guy, and he is a wizard with how he does things. So that's an unorthodox answer, but I really do study kicks from a lot of different people, and I like a lot of different types of kicks. So I can't really put my finger.
That's why I saved that, because
I
I
like rock kicks. Some people be like, I'll make a beat with a very like thick kind of muddy kick where, everything now is staccato. It's okay, I get it, but sometimes you want to, a very like a lengthy, and some of these kicks that are like really like wide and like kind of long. Some of my friends would be like, I don't know if that kick works. And maybe something a little bit more quick and staccato would work. Why not? Why? I'll show them an example on how it's practical. And they'll say, I would never have thought that would be a thing. And I'm like, okay, so I really like all the styles. So my buddy Tyler would shoot me if I said that, because he likes the staccato EDM, trap hip hop type of stuff. So yeah, I love some of that stuff, and especially on a slower BPM project.
Oh yeah. I'm a sucker for, if I hear somebody cruising down the road in the pickup truck outside my house, and I hear you can never hear the really tight hi-hats. You can really never hear the snare really come through. But if it's got a good, I'm like, oh, that is Mwah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
really great. It's really great.
I like a
Uh,
toneful kick,
absolutely,
like a kick with a
absolutely.
tone to it, takes me
Yeah,
back to, I mean, Papa Zita Benjamin and the Snake Pit and Motown, where the kick drum didn't have a sound, it had a tone to it. It wasn't just a boom, 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 boom.
yeah, yeah.
Boom. It has a note. That was a
As
note.
a note, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
actual pitch to it. That's cool. Okay.
I actually do that, believe it or not. Not every beat, but sometimes on especially some of those longer kicks where it's really like the kick is focal. I don't want it to get dissonant in my chord progressions, so I will go through and I will actually pitch my kicks to match the chord progressions, and to go with the bass line. If my bass note's a G, my kick that follows in that when
Yep.
it's a G, and as my bass line goes around, my kicks follow. So
Okay.
not every time, but I do it sometimes.
Okay. Workflow.
Okay.
Again, back to the producer's chair. So hi-hat stray, snare dray, kick, you're all over the place.
All over, but I'd still say check out Seven, who is Tech Nine's in-house producer at Strangeland Studios.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, okay. So Nick sits down to write a beat. Where do you start first?
Melody, always. I would say 99.9% of times melody. But the reason for that is because I am a pianist first. So I sit down at the piano. I start going through sounds. I start going through um, okay, and so that's half of it for me. I like to sample stuff. I like to sample soul stuff. I like to sample all kinds of things. Um, and I really like I love sample manipulation, to be honest. I really got into it over the past few years and taking a little snippet of something and turning it into something else and just making a beat out of that, which is really fun. But it's always the melody for me. I really think that's why I love music so much. I love drums, I love percussion, rhythm, and everything, but I'm a sucker for melodies, and I love harmonies and harmonizing. And I just wake up. I don't wake up beatboxing. I wake up humming. So I think that for me resonates with why I'm a melody guy first, and being a drummer second. I know I like hearing something that I know I want to put drums to. So a lot of times, having been in a metal band, we came up with the guitar structure first as a guitarist, and my drummer threw drums down after that based on we never wrote off the drummer. And not to say you can't, you can make a beat and then start adding in your little melodies and do whatever you want and really go. You could still make the same track that way. But I sit down with either my keyboard if I'm going to write my own type of thing, or if I want to sample something that I like, uh, you know, I'll start with that, and then from there it's drums. Usually, I get a little bit of a bass layer of drums going, and then I usually add my secondary, third, fourth parts in there and stuff, and yeah, I just kind of go from there. But that primary melody structure is really what I'm looking for,
Cool.
and usually in two parts. I like to try to do an A/B part if I can. I don't a lot. It's okay to take a 4-bar loop, 8-bar loop, 16-bar loop, whatever, three-bar loop if you're writing in 3/4, depending on what it is, and just go with that. You can. I like to do a little bit of subsections because I want my choruses and my verses to sound like choruses and verses where they're a little different. Same with my drum patterns. I'll change them up subtly to know that the verse is a little bit less busy. And then when the chorus happens, there's a little bit more bells and whistles. So I think doing that type of stuff will make your projects less repetitive and a little bit more, your arrangements will be more professional too. So,
Cool. Last
yeah.
question
Okay.
from me. The last 10 years, who is, in your opinion, the top three? Who are the top three producers to be listened to? Top three.
In the last 3 years
In the
or
last 10 years,
10 years, 10 years.
in the last decade, who are the top three that need to be, people need to listen to them to learn the art?
Um, That is a very, very, very hard question because it depends
I
on the
knew it was.
style.
That's why I asked you.
Okay. This isn't a name, but it's more of a style. Anybody who's made anything that's on a Billboard chart or who's on the radio currently, because I don't mean to say this in a weird way, but it's current and it's modern and it worked and it's successful. learn what the guys are currently doing. And some of these guys, you'll see recurring names. I can't say I'm really, really good at keeping up with all these like new guys out there. There's just so many.
Little this, little
Um,
that. Yeah.
little this and you know, a lot of times it's not like you get on you find a record, and a lot of these producers I've never heard of. It was just a cool beat that they found and they used. Some guys work with very specific people. I would say one that I would consider checking out that I studied very heavily, he goes by Germ. He was Mac Miller's primary producer his whole career. And they make, and if you're not a Mac Miller fan, that's fine, don't listen to it for that aspect. But going through the years of how long he was an artist, they make so many different types of music, and the stuff they do in audio is, it's even to this day I don't understand how they do it, the production side of it. It's just really, it's amazing to study it. And Germ, the GERM, you can look it up on YouTube. There's all kinds of videos of this guy and stuff. He's really, really, really talented, and he's very out of the box. And that is what I try to aspire to be, out of the box. So I look up to that a lot. I would have to say anybody that's worked with, like the J. Cole, the Logic, Joyner Lucas, a lot of these new guys that have really come up and they're heavy hitters now, like just irrefutable heavy hitters. Look at who they worked with. And again, it's very relative to which songs you like and how you want to produce. I'd always still say go back to the roots and study your Dre's and your Scott Storch and whatever, just the people that did it really big back in the day. But really, it's hard to put that into terms, because for me, I like to emulate what I heard from the artists I like listening to versus trying to copy other producers. So unless I was like with Mac Miller or like Joyner Lucas, for example, I'm a huge fan of Joyner Lucas. His song "I Love" was on his ADHD album, but that single dropped like last year or maybe in 2018. I want to say it's been a long time. One of the coolest beats I've ever heard. I don't really remember the guy's name that produced it, but I remember at the time I dug into that and I studied how he was like, how did he make those 808s hit like that and whatever. So, I mean, I have to say, study the people that you like to listen to, because it's something you're going to want to study. But there are some guys out there that are they're doing damage in everywhere. So it's really hard to say. I'm biased a little bit because I don't listen. I listen to a lot of things that aren't hip hop. So I'm not like listening to like the Lil Uzi Vert and like these other mumble rap people. No offense, if that's your thing, own it, stay in that lane. Like the Metro Boomin, he's a really big producer in that genre right now. Get involved with him if that's what you like. So it just kind of depends on the style of hip hop.
Yeah,
But
I'm real careful not to say, what? Not Travis Scott?
exactly. See, I respect that's huge. There's gonna be a lot of people that are listening to me right now saying, "What is this dude talking about?" They're charting, record songs right now. They are. It's just not my cup of tea. I didn't come from that, and I respect it. I will always respect it. I'm not talking down on it at all. It's just not something that I really pay a whole lot of
Right.
attention to. But I still look at it and I respect the stuff for what it is, and I understand why it's popular. And kudos to them. They found their lane and they made it
And
they made it work for them.
and
So
you've repeated that several times in the time that we've had together, is that, find your lane, stay in your lane, you know.
yeah,
Decide to change lanes, I guess that's.
that's okay. And
That
you know what? I never used to like trap drums.
Oh,
But I have sold in my beat store more trap beats than my soul beats, my underground beats, my West Coast beats, my East Coast beats, my boom bap beats. I've sold more trap beats than anything. And I've only been making trap beats for maybe 3 years now, 4 years
wow.
tops.
Okay.
So
Well, okay, so before I hit the stop button on the record here, is there any pearls of wisdom that you want to impart to students of audio and students of production?
yeah, I do. It's a little bit of just a kind of I don't know, say a pat on the back here, but this is something that I will live and die by. And I do believe in, regardless of really what anybody says to me. It's just what I like to prep my motto to go by with music. Do what you love, find what type of music what makes you happy, try to find what your calling is and why you started wanting to do this in the first place. And if that evolves over the years, fine, that's cool, that's meant to happen. But work towards understanding why those sounds are the way that they are. Study a lot. don't always just listen to music for it to be background. Literally, listen to a song and study elements. Listen to it 10 times in a row if you have to, and go and piecemeal it out. Just really keep trying to stay active in your studying, because it will open that floodgate. You will learn so many things and tricks from just studying and trying to constantly keep understanding more. So my biggest thing is just, find what makes you happy. Uh, Chase it with everything that you got. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about, how much time you're going to waste making beats, whatever, how many times you miss going out, whatever. Do it. If you want to do it, put the time in, put the work into it, learn to kind of suck at it at first, and know that better days will come. Know that you will make tracks one day where you make it and you're listening to the mix and you have that feeling in your chest of, I can't believe, this is amazing. You're happy. It's like, there's no drug in the world, not that I necessarily know, that would necessarily compare to what that feeling is like, of making something dope that you like and you're proud of it. And once you get to that point, man, you won't want to stop. You just won't. And so I'd say just try to work as hard as you can to find what you like to do and how you like to make music. And don't really ever try to let anybody tell you that you're doing something wrong, because you're not. It does not matter what DAW you use, but do find a DAW that works for you. I learned Pro Tools in school, but I gravitated to Logic Pro X. I do still have Pro Tools. I do use Pro Tools for mastering. And, if I do anything outside of, say if I'm recording a band or whatever, I'll use Pro Tools, but I don't use it a lot. Ableton and Logic, I would say you can't go wrong with. If you don't have a Mac, and you can't get Ableton, FL Studios works for a lot of producers. That's PC only, I guess, for the most part. But just find it, find what works for you. Find a DAW that you like. Find one you're willing to put in the man hours or the woman hour, however you want to be, whatever, how you want to put that. Put the hours into learning your DAW. Learn your hotkeys. Learn, what a lot of the things mean, of course. YouTube what you don't know. There's an answer for anything out there. Google it. Just put in that studying time. I guess it all comes down to studying, and just keep building. Piece it out, and you will be surprised as to how quickly you start enjoying yourself in your life and in your productions and in your music. And it just becomes a lifestyle at that point. You've chosen it now. So once you've chosen it, that's all she wrote. Keep making music, and who knows, man, the sky's the limit. Anything can happen for you. 10 years ago, I would never have guessed I'd be looking at a song with Ritz, and I didn't think that 6 months ago, really,
Right.
anything could happen anytime with anybody. So I just say, persevere it out, and ask questions, of course. Keep you in the loop. If you're, because you've been a great mentor to me over the last, 7-8 years. I've been able to ask you all kinds of questions and stuff. And I really,
I
that
love
goes
it
a long
every
way.
time something comes up in Messenger. I'm just like, oh God, this is going to be good.
Yeah. So, I mean, utilize these resources is what and,
Yeah, find your
just
tribe, find people you can go to, and just bounce stuff off of, right?
absolutely. It goes a long way. It really does go a long way. And, it's okay to feel discouraged. Actually, I'm going to hit on that too real fast, 10 seconds. Fail all you want. Let it hurt your feelings. Do it. Cry about it. Do whatever you want. Go get drunk for the rest. Don't condone that, but just for the sake of
Yeah,
mine, sake of the argument,
I get you.
fail. Learn to fail. Accept that you're going to. Accept that it's just part of it.
Don't be
And
afraid.
yeah, and honestly, do things that are wrong. Open a compressor and just start turning knobs. Who knows? Like, you never know what you might find or discover. Do what you want, and
Happy
eventually
accidents,
things will
man.
happen.
Happy accidents, remember?
Happy accident. Bob Ross, right?
Right.
Happy
It's like,
little trees, man.
yeah, happy little trees.
That's a mess up. I'm just going to make it a tree now. Yeah, it's just that optimism. I think that's a great point. The optimism that he shows, that's what I'm talking about, man. Just stay in that optimism. Keep pushing no matter what, and you'll be happy by the end of the day. Once that painting is over, you'll be happy with it.
Where we're gonna find your stuff, Nick? Where online can we find some Nick stuff?
All right. Beatstars.com / Euphoria Music. YOUFORIAMUSIC.
Nick, it's been a pleasure, man.
I really
This,
appreciate having me, and yeah,
this
I
is
will
gonna be this is probably gonna make it onto the doc audio side if you don't mind. And
absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to send me a link to it if you can, if you post anything. I'd
I'll
love to see
definitely
it.
be showing you some love for that. But man, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate the fact that, you got that tenacity, just not giving up and going after, and now you're starting to see some fruit, and it's really cool, man.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I appreciate everything that you've done for me over the years, and I hope that maybe somebody out there that's heard anything from me. I don't know. I don't have much to say, but maybe it did something for somebody somewhere where it gives them some kind of urge to get back into it or to do more. So
Right
I
on.
really do hope that I made some type of influence or impact here. So
Right on, man. Well, I'm gonna hit the stop button.
all
Have a
right, man.
great evening, brother.
Have a good one.
You're the
Appreciate you.
best.